So this is Nythendra Heroic. This is our guild's first attempt that we just did. She has a couple of different things that she's going to do that you're going to want to watch out for. The first one is, as you just saw, she's going to cast an ability called Rot on random members of the raid. Now this ability is going to pulse several times before finally creating a pool of AoE on the ground. That pool is going to do very high ticking damage, and it comes into play in the Heart of the Swarm phase, which we'll go over in a minute. But what you want to do is, if you get infected with the Rot, you're going to move to the outer edge of the room. Now what we decided to do was line them up in a clockwise pattern. We tried to put them in a line going around the room. You know, think of like the minute hand on a clock. That way we always had space where there was not going to be any rots that were going to come moving at us during Heart of the Swarm. So the next thing she does, which is very deadly to ranged and healers, is the Infested Breath. You saw I took one tick from it a second ago, and it did a huge amount of damage to me. She's going to target a random player. It can be literally any melee, any range. See, she just did it again right there. And she's going to spin towards them. You're going to have about a second and a half while she channels it before she actually unleashes the breath. If you get caught in it, you are almost guaranteed to die. It is very hard to heal through. It does an incredible amount of damage. Now, right here we've gone into the Heart of the Swarm phase. This phase right here, she's going to do a couple of different things. All of the rots around the room, the pools on the ground, you're going to see they're going to move towards her. As they move towards her, if you get caught by them, it's going to do high damage to you and anybody else in that path. On top of that, there's going to be bugs that are going to spawn all around the room and grow in size. As those bugs grow in size, they're going to pulsate in a radiating AoE, kind of like what Rot does. It's going to do very high ticking damage as well, so you have to watch out for it. If you have DBM or something like that, it'll usually tell you if you're standing too close to one. And that's just kind of self-awareness right there. So the Heart of the Swarm phase, it doesn't last very long. We decided to lust during this one because that's about the best chance you're going to get. The boss is kind of laying stationary, and if you position the rots correctly, then you don't really have to worry about anything. Another ability that has to be discussed is something called Volatile Rot. Now, Volatile Rot is different from the normal Rot that she does in a very key way. It is unavoidable, it's undodgeable, and the only way to mitigate the damage it's going to do to the entire raid is by moving further away. If you see up in the top right of the screen, anybody that gets infected with Volatile Rot is running as far away back to the entrance as possible, because the further you are from the player that has the Volatile Rot, the less damage you take when it detonates. So anybody that gets infected by it needs to run to the opposite side of the room, to the entrance, just as far away from the raid as possible. Because the Volatile Rot on Heroic does 2.1 million damage to all members of the raid if you take full damage from it. So if somebody stands in the middle of your group and detonates it, it can pretty much guarantee a wipe. And so the last ability to really discuss is the dot she's going to apply to everybody that takes any type of plague damage. Now, this dot does 3,500 damage per second for each stack of it that you have, and you get a stack by taking damage from any of her plague damaging abilities, such as Rot, the Infested Breath, the Burst of Corruption. Anything that does plague damage will give you a stack of this. This dot, will wipe your raid if it is not managed or if they get too high. Now, the good thing is, when she goes into the Heart of the Swarm phase, all of these stacks get removed. So, if you guys can just manage your stacks well enough until each Heart of the Swarm phase, you'll be good. But keep in mind, even 10 stacks, if everyone in your raid has 10 stacks, that's 35,000 damage per second to the entire raid. Your healers are going to be out of mana in a few minutes flat, trying to heal through damage like that. So, avoid the abilities as best as you can. And that's pretty much all there is to her. You're just going to keep rinsing and repeating the same things over and over again. Her enrage timer is 8 minutes, so that's more than enough time to get her down if you have, mediocre DPS. If you have outstanding DPS like we did, you can beat the timer with minutes to spare. And you can see we've got still, 4 minutes left, and she's at 20% health. So, it's not really a hard fight. It's just you've gotta pay attention to what's going on around you. You've got to avoid taking as much AoE damage as possible, because it's not a one-time thing. You continuously get punished by the more damage you take because of the dot. And that's pretty much it. So I'll just leave you guys to enjoy the rest of the fight.